Are Tottenham Hotspur becoming the real deal? Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to another video. Yes, today's video we're centering around Tottenham Hotspur, who of course were the team that beat Liverpool on Saturday night by 2-1 in albeit rather controversial circumstances. The main reason for this video is simply for the reason that Tottenham have had a brilliant start to the campaign. Tottenham have had an excellent start to the campaign. They've defied expectation and they have become better than what a lot of people, including myself, were predicting so far in the early stages of the campaign. They're unbeaten so far in the league. They're up to second in the table. I know you can't really read too much into that at this early stage, but they are second in the table. And of course, like I say, they had another great result against Liverpool on Saturday night. Controversial circumstances aside, they still went on to win that game. The result is the result. But I feel like with obviously VAR and the standard of English Premier League refereeing overshadowing a lot of this weekend's Premier League football, I felt that Tottenham didn't really get the spotlight that they deserved. So this is my way of giving them a bit of spotlight, talking about the beginning of the season that they've endured and whether or not that this kind of run can continue, how far they can go, or whether or not the bubble will burst for Spurs going forward and the honeymoon period will be over before you know it. We're going to be talking all about that and much more in regards to Tottenham, but before we go any further, I would like to remind you all to please like the video and also subscribe if you're new. Both things are always and probably greatly appreciated. Also, get involved in the comment section. I'm sure you have a lot of interesting thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it in regards to Tottenham down below in that comment section, so do get involved down there. But without further ado, let's get on with the video. Let's talk Tottenham Hotspur. Now, I would like to kick the video off by saying that I could have chose a lot of talking points from this weekend. VAR and refereeing aside, there were a lot of talking points that happened over the weekend that because of the standard of refereeing, the usage of VAR and everything, and the controversy that surrounded a lot of games this weekend. Not just that Liverpool-Tottenham game, but there was also controversy in the Brentford-Nottingham Forest game. There was controversy in the Manchester United Crystal Palace game. There was controversy in the Aston Villa Brighton game. I could have chose a lot of talking points to talk about for this video and centre the video around. I could have talked about City losing to Wolves. No one saw that coming at the beginning of the weekend, did they? But Wolves managed to pull off an extremely surprising and brilliant victory against Pep Guardiola's side. I could have talked about Arsenal getting back to winning ways against Bournemouth. I could have talked about Manchester United losing to Crystal Palace despite beating them a few days ago in the Carabao Cup in rather convincing fashion. I could have talked about Luton Town picking up their first victory in England's top flight division at the expense of Everton. But I felt that Tottenham didn't get the recognition or the spotlight that they deserved on Saturday night purely because of the controversy surrounding the result that obviously played out at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium between themselves and Liverpool. Now, don't get me wrong, the controversy and the spotlight was needed. Well, the controversy wasn't needed, but the spotlight was needed on the controversy to obviously highlight the incompetence of referees and their incompetent usage of VAR and to highlight the huge error and mistake that the PGMOL referees have made. But there needed to be recognition of Tottenham as well, because although Tottenham faced 9 men, Tottenham still got the job done. And that was the be-all and end-all of it. And I said in my match reaction that the result was the result. I felt it would have been much fairer if it had been a draw, given the way that the game had gone. But the result is the result. And I have no issue whatsoever with Tottenham celebrating that win. They don't really beat Liverpool anyway. It was a great moment for them, and it will do them the world of good going forward. It will give them a massive boost. It will give them a mentality build as well in the process. It was a great result by Spurs. And I have no issue whatsoever with them celebrating the win the way that they did, and obviously with the way that the win came about. Yes, it's in heartbreaking and gut-wrenching circumstances as far as what Liverpool are concerned, because they dug in so deep and I think nearly every player on that pitch, maybe Diego Jota aside, was exceptional down to a T in what was difficult circumstances. But Tottenham still went to the final bitter end and obviously managed to get the win in the end. Deserved or not, it doesn't necessarily matter. The result, like I say, is the result. But that's just the tip of the iceberg with Tottenham. Don't get me wrong, I don't think Tottenham played their best on Saturday. And I think a large part of that was down to how the game went. I think if you asked Tottenham how they wanted to play that game, they would have told you that they would have wanted the game 11v11 for the most part, because I think that would have shown you a better Tottenham side. With the way that obviously the game changed due to the red cards and everything, Liverpool had to change their stance a little bit, and that's why it made it difficult for Spurs to play their normal game that they have been for the majority of this season. It wasn't the best game from Spurs. Large part of that was down to Liverpool, particularly when the game was 11v11. But then, of course, when the game was made 11v10 and then ultimately 11v9, I think it made the game even more difficult for Spurs to contend with, because after a while they became a bit more predictable and Liverpool were holding back. They were absorbing the pressure, and Alisson Becker did make a couple of world-class saves yet again for Liverpool to deny Spurs. But after that opening 15 minutes of the second half, where it was all Spurs pressure, Liverpool handled that pressure, they weathered the storm, and they came back into the game. And it was ultimately Jota and his red card that ultimately swung the tide back in Tottenham's favour for the pressure to build again. But ultimately, again, when it went down to 9 men, Liverpool just sat back, and Tottenham didn't really have an answer until obviously they managed to get a bit of a breakthrough, and that one time that they managed to penetrate that Liverpool back line, it of course resulted in a dangerous cross being put into his own net by Joel Matip. Cruel on Liverpool's part, but again it shows the resilience of Tottenham. And that's something that I think got overlooked a little bit. And we've seen it not only against Liverpool, but we saw it against Sheffield United as well. I know that Tottenham should have had that game wrapped up a long, long time beforehand, but we saw against Sheffield United the way that they went down to the bitter end in that one to, of course, come from a goal down in injury time to then turn it around to 2-1. We saw that resilience then. We saw it last week when they faced Arsenal in the London derby, twice coming from behind to, of course, equalise. And again, they ride their luck at times, Tottenham, but every team does. Whether you're City, whether you're Liverpool of old, or whether you're Arsenal of last season, you ride your luck at times, and sometimes the luck is in your favour. And I feel like with Spurs, they have rode their luck at times a bit. Arsenal could have been out of sight in that first half had they took their chances. Liverpool had a few chances as well in their game. Sheffield United had a couple of opportunities. Even going back beforehand, the Manchester United game, if United took their chance in the first half, it could have been a completely different result. So Tottenham do ride their luck at times, there's no doubt about it, but they're far from the finished article, aren't they? Postecoglou's only been in charge for about 7 or 8 games. Like, it was going to be miraculous if this was going to be the finished article. But so far, so good for him and for his Spurs squad. I have to admit, I'm surprised, and I think a lot of people are surprised with how well Spurs have done. They were kind of an unknown entity coming into this season. How were they going to cope without Harry Kane? How were they going to cope with a new manager at the helm that didn't have the reputation or the standing in the English game or the European game of Jose Mourinho or an Antonio Conte? We've seen them try multiple managers across the past few seasons that just haven't worked out for Spurs. Postecoglou coming in, he didn't have the CV. He didn't have the pedigree of a top-class manager. He had a CV of a manager that had been in the Australian League, Japanese League, and of course managing Celtic. It's not a CV that represents a top-class manager. It represents a manager with a CV that has done good in the places where he's been, but obviously a massive question mark over whether he could handle that pressure and go forward in what is described to me, obviously, the biggest and best league in the world, in the Premier League. Could he handle that pressure? Could he go to a Spurs squad, to a Spurs club that obviously is in disarray, chaos, has an ownership issue, has many squad issues where the players are not good enough, and the players that are seemingly good enough just haven't got the room to blossom or the time to blossom or whatever the case may be. There were a lot of question marks coming into the season over Tottenham and over the manager in particular. But this manager is, I like him. I like the way that he goes about himself. I don't agree with this whole thing of like he's a media darling. He's, just because he's fresh and he's new and everything. I like him. I like the way that he speaks. I like the way he goes about his business. He just seems like a casual kind of bloke. He just seems like he's a genuine, nice bloke who just loves football and is just casual about it. Like, he's just got this weirdly infectious personality about him that I quite like. I quite like him. It's weird. But he's taken life brilliantly at Spurs so far. Whether that will continue or not obviously remains to be seen. They're unbeaten so far in the Premier League. I don't necessarily agree with the way that they approach their Carabao Cup situation, because let's face it, that could have been a real opportunity for Spurs to kick on and go forward and maybe start putting together a cup run together. Don't necessarily agree with the way that they approach that, especially when you consider that they're only playing pretty much one game a week. So I don't necessarily agree with that, but let's face it, the FA Cup is going to be on the horizon come January, so maybe there could be a good cup run there for Tottenham to endure if that is going to be the case. But he's done brilliantly so far, and like I say, you can put asterisks over certain results and certain performances. You can always question certain performances. I think the Liverpool one has to have a bit of an asterisk over it, with all things considered and with all due respect. But at the same time, you cannot deny that Tottenham went to the bitter end and they managed to get the result. I think the Tottenham of old probably crumble and probably either come out with a point and people say they bottled it against 9 men, or Liverpool get a breakaway and they manage to score with 9 men. Like, I think the Tottenham of old actually concede in that scenario. This Tottenham side didn't, and they went on to win, and that's going to only continue to boost their mentality and boost their confidence going forward. That is only going to do it. And you saw the post-match celebration. Was it a little bit of over-celebration? Perhaps. Doing like laps of honours and bringing your kids on, that may have been a tad too much, considering that it was only a Premier League game against Liverpool. But at the same time, I quite like it because it shows there's a togetherness. It shows that there's a unity there. And it shows that there's a bridge being built to bridge the gap between the fans and the club. And it shows that it's back to being a family club, a together club, a closeness kind of club. So whilst I think it may have been a tad overboard in terms of doing laps of honours and bringing your kids on and whatever the case may be, it's not like it's the end of the season or anything along those lines. I quite like it because it does build something. And I say that as a Liverpool fan that, of course, saw Jurgen Klopp have his Liverpool side draw 2-2 with West Brom and obviously do the bow in front of the Kop end. So I do understand it to a degree, and I like what Tottenham are building and what they're rebuilding in certain ways to obviously help fix the club. But I think there are still going to be bigger obstacles to come. I think obviously games against City, games that you're expected to win, even tougher games against the likes of, your Brentfords, your Brightons, even your West Hams to an extent, they're going to still be tough for Tottenham to overcome. City obviously is going to be tough anyway, given who and what City are. they're still going to be tough. And I still believe that the real measuring stick for how far this Tottenham side have come will be a defeat. I'm going to talk about Liverpool later on in the week in response to the defeat and everything. Now that I've kind of calmed down from the performance of the referees and everything, but this Tottenham side will be measured when they get beat, and it will be about their mentality and how they bounce back. That is what I think will be the biggest measuring stick of where Tottenham are going to be this season. Right now, with the way that they're playing, if things continue, I'd put them in my top 4, and I didn't think I'd be saying that at all this season. But with the way that they've started the season, the way that they're playing, yes, there are still some things that need to be ironed out. Their defence isn't exactly watertight. Their strike force isn't exactly completely lethal right now. Their depth isn't perfect, but those issues were not going to be sorted overnight. Those issues were not going to be sorted in one transfer window. They deserve the recognition that so far they're not completely getting. They're getting recognition as being overperforming, but I think from Saturday's performance, I didn't think it was their best of the season by any means, but I think there were circumstances because of that, and I think there were also because of Liverpool as well. They deserve more credit than what they got, especially from Saturday, and especially with the way that they've gone about their business so far this season. I just think that they need to be beaten to see where they currently are and where they're going to be at going forward, because I think you can learn a lot more about a team in defeat than you can about them just winning. And I say that, and I mentioned Liverpool there because I also think that we've seen a lot more of Liverpool, and we know a lot more about Liverpool from that defeat on Saturday than we would if they'd have just simply beaten Tottenham like they usually do. That Tottenham win on Saturday was brilliant, and it will go forward a long way for their confidence and for their mentality to continue to build under Ange Postecoglou and build this togetherness and unity. But I think a defeat we'll see where they really are. And like I say, that's not a criticism. That's not me being harsh in any way, shape or form. That is me saying that this side are building something that looks really good right now. It looks really pleasing on the eye. The football looks good. There's still some things that need to be ironed out, but it's an absolute positive start by Spurs. The bubble could burst at any moment. It's Spurs. I've seen them have great starts to the season before. I've seen them have great starts on the managers before. And then everything has simply burst and the ground has caved in from underneath them. But for right now, enjoy it. You've had 2 years of playing boring football, poor performances, terrible results, inconsistencies. Enjoy this whilst it lasts, Tottenham fans, because it's brilliant right now and it looks really good, but it could all burst, and that is my warning that it could. And to an extent, as a Liverpool fan, obviously I hope it bursts, but if I am to be neutral and I am to be fair, I like Postecoglou, I like what he's done, and I like the way that he's gone about his business, even though obviously he's faced dealing with a difficult owner in Daniel Levy, losing his best player in Harry Kane, and of course is managing Tottenham. So there you have it. Like I say, I think they deserve some credit, they deserve some recognition. I think it's been a positive and brilliant start to life at Tottenham for Ange Postecoglou, and a brilliant start to the season for Tottenham Hotspur. But those are just the thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it, of this guy. I want to know what you guys think. What do you make of Tottenham and their start to... Oh, Jesus. Their start to the season. My bad. And their start to the season. I'd love to know your thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it, of this topic down below in the comment section below. So do get involved down there. Otherwise, hit the like button on the way up. If you enjoyed the video, subscribe if you're new and want to see more content like this. Both things are always and very greatly appreciated. And of course, Thank you all so much for watching and listening. I've been Fletch. This has been another Fletch Talks video, and I'll see you all again soon in another video, live stream, or whatever it may be. Cheers, guys. Have a good night. Good day, night, whatever this is, and I'll talk to you all again soon.